What the hell is Saw Sports or whatever that last call was talking about? What the hell is that?
Guys are from Free Love, man.
What's the motherfucker do, man? Welcome to Saw Sports. I am your host, Ed Honcho. Today we're going to get into 5 things to watch in this Texans versus Saints game. If you're not familiar with Saw Sports is a Houston Texans homer network. Maybe we're talking all sports, but only Houston. Make sure you go and subscribe to Saw Sports TV if you want the other professional Houston, local, amateur, college, whatever teams. But and also make sure you follow Saw Sports on all the proper social medias listed below. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. We're going to talk about 5 things you need to watch in this game. Should be a very interesting game. The first Monday Night Football game of the 2019 season, the first game of a doubleheader. Let's stop wasting time. Let's get into it right now. So, number 5, as we work our way from 5 to number 1, and make sure you stay tuned to the very end, because you know every time we do these top 5 lists, or the top 5, we add a bonus at the end, is the new running back additions. Well, primarily Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson was recently acquired from Cleveland, and we're going to see what are the Texans going to do with Duke. Are they going to try to run in between the tackles? Are they going to put him on the outside? Are they going to use his pass catching ability? You know, a lot of people don't feel like Duke Johnson is a number 1 back. They don't think he's a 3-down guy. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Some people just feel like he hasn't had the opportunity. So Duke Johnson is going to be taking over the responsibility for the run game, because Lamar Miller, as we all know, had the ACL injury in his first carry in the pregame and will be out for the season, which is extremely unfortunate. You knew what you were getting in Lamar Miller. Duke Johnson is a relative unknown, so we'll see how he will either help or hinder the running game for the Houston Texans. And, you know, also pay attention to Carlos Hyde and some of the younger guys that you have on the roster. Because after Carlos Hyde, the talent kind of drops off. I won't say drops off, but the experience as far as being a NFL running back drops off a bit. Because even if you look at some of the other guys, they just haven't been here long enough, or they haven't had the opportunities. So it's going to be very important to see what Duke Johnson brings to this game. Was he worth what's going to become a 3rd-round pick, because it was a 4th-round pick, but if he plays 10 games, it becomes a 3rd-round pick. Was he worth a 3rd or 4th-round pick for the Texans picking him up? Stay tuned to see. We will find out tonight. So another very important factor going into tonight's Monday Night Football game. Again, the first Monday Night Football game of the season. I know y'all are excited. It was a very interesting season so far, week 1. Breeze, getting pressure on Breeze. I know last time the Texans saw Breeze, Watt had a field day. Well, it's not the same guy out there. Has an additional, or a former Wisconsin Badger, old Badger buddy out there. He's playing Ryan. I forget the guy's last name. But will the Texans be able to get pressure on Breeze when your second leading sack guy, Jadeveon Clowney, is now gone? Will you get that production from Whitney Merciless? Who will fill in that role? Will Cornell utilize these guys to their strength so that they can apply that pressure on Breeze? Because again, you're getting a guys, if you're just looking at the numbers last year, everybody else that you have left did not equate to the number of sacks that Clowney gave you. Whether you feel like Clowney lived up to his potential or not, you still got rid of an asset, and the numbers after that have a severe drop-off. Now, we know the Texans don't always utilize talent in the proper way, but hopefully a lot of people say it, or that Cornell is saying Merciless will be put back in his proper position and properly utilized. And we know that Merciless is a very capable pass rusher, but this being a contract year, hopefully he gets off on the right foot, and we will see what he brings to the table. So will the Texans really be able to apply pressure on Breeze, a guy who has been record-setting, one of the best to ever do it, I think extremely undervalued, underrated, and has never gotten an MVP, which is an interesting fact to me, as far as everything that he's done in this league. But we will see what happens. Now the Texans have removed Jadeveon Clowney, their best run stopper, second best pass rusher. What happens with the Texans' pass rush? Can they get pressure on one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game? So another extremely important factor when it comes to these 5 things that you need to be watching for in tonight's game is this new look Texans offensive line. The pieces have changed. Some pieces have been moved around. But is this offensive line really better? We know who Laramie Tunsil is. We know what he brings to the game. Very confident guy, very skilled guy. But does that necessarily translate to the rest of the line? He's only been here a few days, so he hasn't really had much of an opportunity to gel, to mesh. You had Howard, who has been practicing recently, but has a broken finger, and he missed a lot of the preseason due to that broken finger, and he needs all the reps that he can get with him being in a new position. A lot of questions are out there, and we will find out. Now, they will benefit because I believe Rankin for the Saints will not be playing this evening, so that's definitely a benefit to the line. But is this line ready? And you see Nick Martin, who came back in late. This will be the first time that they really, as a unit, as a starting unit that gets put out there, have a chance to go against real competition as a unit. I expect to see some issues, but hopefully they can minimize that. Hopefully the communication is good, and hopefully they can protect Deshaun Watson, because 62 is an ungodly number, and I would hate to see that again. I'd hate to see Deshaun going through the same thing that he went through last year. I expect that number to come down, but this will be the first real test of this new look Texans offensive line, and we will find out how much they improved, if at all, compared to the line last year. So another extremely important thing to watch, man, 2 of the best to do it in the game last year, 2 first-team All-Pros, the 2 first-team All-Pro wide receivers, and Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins will be competing to earn another All-Pro this season. Again, Hopkins, in my personal opinion, the best in the game, has been doing it for years with a plethora of trash. Thomas has just got a big payday, and he's a very productive guy himself. So not to sleep on either one of these guys. The secondary is going to have their hands full. Roby's going to have a challenge. Marshawn Lattimore is going to have a challenge. It's going to be very interesting to see what these guys do. And I'm sure they're going to be looking across the sideline, across the field on the other sideline to see, well, what is he doing and how can I outshine him? Because these are guys that are very competitive, very good, extremely talented. We're talking about elite wide receivers in the game. So it's going to be great that we get to see both of these guys in prime time tonight with 2 quarterbacks who can give them the ball. We'll see what they'll be able to do. It's going to be extremely fun to watch. Especially, I'm leaning towards D-Hop, my personal favorite. Got a little bit of bias, but Michael Thomas is a very solid receiver in his own right, and he is not a man to be disrespected. So I think tonight is going to be a treat for any NFL fan who is watching this game, and I expect everybody, it's Monday Night Football, so the world's going to be watching, to see 2 of the best in the game do it, and all you can do is sit back and enjoy. But let's go ahead and get to the last point, which I think is going to be the most interesting and entertaining point of all. And then make sure you stay tuned for the bonus, because like I say, there will be an extra point that I want to address. Man, oh man, the number one thing, the most important thing that I think we need to be watching for in tonight's game, and I think that the world will be watching for, 2 very dynamic quarterbacks, 2 offenses that have the potential to be some of the best in the league. This is going to be a Southern-style shootout. You got Drew Brees, you got Deshaun Watson going into year 3, ready to prove himself as the man in this league. They went and got him a little bit of protection, so we shouldn't see him having to make some of the decisions that he had to make last year. We all know who Drew Brees. Drew Brees is great. He's always in the conversation every year as far as MVP. There's setting records. It's going to be interesting. 2 dynamic offenses. You got to deal with Kemah on one side. You have the new addition of Steals. We'll see what he brings to the table. Will Fuller should be good to go. Kiki, I'm not sure about his status. I believe he's out for this game. But then Duke coming up back. I mean, you have a lot of pieces on both sides that have to be respected. I expect this to be a high-scoring game. I don't expect to see a whole lot of defense. I mean, there might be a play made here and there, but I expect this to be an extremely high-scoring game of one of the new looks of the league in Deshaun Watson versus Drew Brees, one of the old guard, one of the veterans who still has a lot to prove. And the Saints feel like they are back in Super Bowl contention. They felt like they got hosed last year, so I think they're going to want to come out and make a statement, especially if you look at some of the games that we saw yesterday from some of the guys, some of the teams that are considered in Super Bowl contention. Don't expect the Saints to come out and let their foot off the gas. We can talk about how many years they've lost openers and all these things, man. That's coincidence, okay? Each year is a new year, and so you have to respect it for what it is. This is going to be a very exciting game to watch if it lives up to its billing. I'm not going to make a prediction on this until the live stream, so make sure you catch the pregame live stream. But this is going to be a shootout. It should be a shootout. And look forward to an exciting game no matter how it plays out. Deshaun Watson versus Drew Brees. This is going to be a great game. But let's get into the bonus point that I said I wanted to address right now to stop wasting time. Hey, right before we get into this bonus point, make sure you hit that subscribe button, man. Make sure you subscribe to Salt Sports TV also if you want the other Houston sports content. But again, hey, I appreciate all of you guys. You guys are the freshest motherfucking ingredient. Become a fresh ingredient by hitting that subscribe button if you don't know what that means, because there's so many ingredients, so many flavors to the sauce, whether you agree or disagree. Then go ahead and leave a comment below. Let me know how you feel about the points that I made. If you agree, disagree, if you feel like there are some more important factors that we need to pay attention to, something that may be being slept on, make sure you're following Salt Sports on all the proper social medias. Let's get into that bonus point right now. Hey, y'all stay saucy. It's your boy Honcho, and I'm out. Now, the bonus take that I want to address is the Houston Texans head coach Billy O going against Sean Payton. Bill O'Brien has a less than stellar record against teams over 500, against the top-notch teams in this league. Going into year 6, if he wants to change the narrative around him, this is the way to do it. This is the game to do it, to come out and have your team ready to go week 1 against a potential Super Bowl contender, to change the narrative against teams that are good, that you really don't win. If you can go out and have a solid win against the Saints, again, who many consider going back to the Super Bowl, being the NFC representative, this is what you need to do. But again, I have my qualms about Bill O'Brien. This is a game where I think he can change a lot of people's feelings if he comes out and shows that he's willing to utilize the skill set of Deshaun Watson, if he's willing to maximize this offense, stop being so conservative, and shows that he's turned over a new leaf and he's ready to do something different. I'm a personal believer that Bill O'Brien's on the hot seat. That's why he's made a lot of the moves this year that he's never made ever before. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But like I said, the bonus take is Bill O'Brien. If he wants to change the narrative that he is only an average to decent head coach, he has to start out, because he's going to be facing a lot of good head coaches this season, that he needs to prove that he can out-coach whoever's on the opposite sideline. And up until this point, I think he survived on a lot of talent, and he hasn't proven that he's in that upper echelon of coaching. To me, he's kind of mid-range, lower mid-range, but we'll see what happens tonight. But hey, appreciate you watching. I'm gone.
Perfect.